Hello everybody, my name is Soulless Convoy and today I'm taking a look at Newage H62C Louie, their version of Marvel Blaster, as they appeared in the Marvel comics. Here's a look at the box as well. You have some great art that's a direct reference to the cover from A Bridge to Nowhere, which is the issue where Blaster and Straxus face off. It uses Newage Blaster and Newage Straxus as the reference models instead, so it's a pretty cool update of the original art. Some pictures of the toy. See him getting the moves on. Yeah, good box art, good box art. I don't have Newage Straxus. I'm not a huge fan of that mold, but you know, if you do have Newage Straxus, you can already tell this is going to be a must buy. But not to spoil any of the parts of the review, let's take a look at the figure himself. And zooming in already, I mean, the paint on this guy, the just general, like, you know, the finish, the quality, the presentation is really on point. You know, this is what you really expect from Newage. You have this gorgeous silver paint right here, these gorgeous blue accents, the red paint. I mean, it just looks really good in hand. There are some unpainted regions like the thighs. I want to say I think the biceps are painted. The hands, I think, are unpainted, but for the most part, it looks really good. This is not all clear plastic. It is actually just an insert, which I thought was a really nice touch. So really appreciate that. The head sculpt is also quite good. I will say that, you know, there's one thing I don't really like with this head sculpt is the fact that it's, you know, perma molded in an expressive face. And whether or not that works for you is like going to be a matter of opinion. I think it looks better than the average Newage duck lips, to be honest, that they sometimes have in their figures when they're not really locked in on the faces. But it is kind of a problem because, you know, sometimes you're posing the figure, you want to like pose it in some way, and you know, you just see this expression and it kind of limits you from doing a lot of things. But for the most part, he does look really good. I really like the shade of the yellow paint and the red. Note that the face and the chest are mismatched. I don't know if this is accurate to something or it was an aesthetic choice, but you know, I think it works pretty well. Aesthetically, it's a very pretty figure. Very, very pretty figure. I don't really have a lot of visual complaints with it. I guess I could say it's kind of plain, but unfortunately that's just symptomatic of the character design. He cleans up really well, really well. So yeah, the visual presentation is on point, and he is, my God, you know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, solid, you know what I mean? Solid, and nothing's like too tight or squeaky. I got this in Warp Treads on the same night, actually. I just got to be honest, this guy feels great. Okay, bit behind the schedule. Articulation, head is on a ball joint, gets you all the way up, like usual. Doesn't really get you a lot down. There's no hinge underneath either, so no down. You obviously have the full 360, and you do have a little bit of side to side, not a lot. Shoulders can go up above 90, which I thought was nice. And then universal 360. No butterfly joints. Double jointed elbow for the full bend. Bicep swivel. And wrist swivel. If you switch in his grasping hands, it'll show in a second, he gains wrist tilt. The cassette door can open. And then when you bring the arms out, we have a really, really nice 90-degree ab crunch. There is one criticism I have about this figure. The waist is on a screw, and I'm showing it here because when you go to articulate the waist, eventually it might loosen the screw because it's screwed in. So just be mindful of that. You're gonna have to retighten the screw at some points. Of course, if you tighten it properly and you just use the waist back and forth, then it'll loosen and tighten itself. But if you do look at the waist in like full spins in the wrong direction, then it'll start to loosen itself. Okay, onto the hips. Full range out, and they are toleranced very well. Like, there's just enough resistance, they'll never move on their own, but they're also smooth enough where it feels smooth. The tolerances on this guy, in terms of joint clearances and articulation, are phenomenal. Like, phenomenal. They kick all the way up to 90. However, due to the design of the hip skirt, if you tilt the leg out a little bit, you can get a lot higher, which can be really useful for some poses. So there is that. You also have thigh swivel, and you do get back to almost 90, I want to say. Thigh swivel, and then you have 2 joints at the knee, double jointed. Pretty good run. I'd say halfway to full. This part is folded upwards like so. I will say the transformation joint tolerances are not necessarily as perfect as the joint tolerances. It's folded like this out of the box. So just make sure that you unclip it and fold it into the proper robot mode position once you unbox him. And then finally, the one part of this guy that isn't super stellar, he just has regular ankle tilt. Good range, obviously, but it is the one-sided, the Hasbro kind of ankle tilt, I like to call it, where it starts from the edge of the inside of the foot into the middle, so you can only get one direction. But it does give you a good range. You have like the slightest toe tilt up, which is just vestigial from transformation. So, yeah, not like mind-blowing articulation, obviously. Like there's no butterfly joints and, for the most part, but everything you could actually ask for that's like industry standard, I guess, for 3P Legends is absolutely there, unrestricted, unhindered. So you can do a lot with it. There's zero kibble hindrance. Nothing clashes or gets in the way. So he is very well articulated. Before I go on to accessories, let's start with the articulation for his buddies. So he comes with 2 friends, Eject and Steeljaw. Eject is quite good. He looks really nice. He has a nice tiny head sculpt. His eyes are not painted, which is apparently accurate. And in the Marvel comics, Eject is like a sports commentator, I think. I wish he kind of had like the headset, but it would be impossible to sculpt at this scale. In terms of articulation, he can also look all the way up, which is fantastic. And of course, do a 360. No side to side, he cannot look down. Ball jointed shoulders, universal. Ball jointed elbows, which give you a bicep swivel and an elbow 90. He has a waist swivel in this ball joint, and it also gives him an ab. I forgot what this is called. It's not an ab crunch. It's arching back. But he doesn't have an ab crunch, unfortunately. He does have a waist swivel though. He has ball jointed hips, which get him up to 90, out to 90, back to 90. And then he has ball jointed knees, which act as both 90-degree knees and as a pseudo thigh swivel. And then he has ankle tilt, which he doesn't have much of. I think it's like, I think it's 30 degrees. It's actually not that bad. So very articulated for how, like how small he is. And the fact that he turns into a cassette, which fits into a Legends figure, is very impressive. Steeljaw, on the other hand, is kind of a brick. There's a ball joint, I want to say. I think his head assembly is on like a double ball joint and his head is on a hinge, but that's more for transformation. So you kind of have a lot of range at the head to do whatever you want with it, I guess. You can do like a confused Steeljaw, like a I don't know, whatever this is. Lion King Steeljaw, sad Steeljaw. No, that's not the word. The legs are much less articulated. They technically have articulation. They're on ball joints here that only splay out about this much, and then these are on hinges, but those are mainly also for transformation. They also just look weird when you pose them. They don't look normal. The back legs have the same deal. There's like ball joints here, but these ball joints are not necessarily, I want to say, getting you much range. There's also a hinge here for the back legs. You could technically pose this guy, but I find that it's really hard to make it look believable, simply because, if I could change this, I would make it that these ball joints would like go up to here or like extend out to the side, because he feels, squished, which makes sense because he's a tape. You can also articulate the cannons on his back, but I don't think those are meant to be articulated. And he can wag his tail. I don't know if lions actually wag their tail. I don't think they do. But that also basically starts the accessory segment, because these two are accessories for Blaster. I can show you Eject's transformation really quickly, simply because it's really simple. You just hinge these arms down on this tiny hinge, just make him put his hands to his head like he's, I don't know what he's doing actually. Despite being small, like very small, I don't think you ever have to be worried about breaking this, because it's just like really, it does not feel very breakable. I just want to say, like, I don't know how else to convey my point, but the transformation is just like it's really easy. I am forgetting part of it right now on camera, because that's just what happens on camera in my experience. But for the most part, my God, you just bring the legs up here. Like, I've never looked this up or done anything. I just kind of figured it out as I went, and so I did not really learn it. But there you go. Like, it looks fiddly and difficult, but honestly, like, it just folds up very easily. Very, very easily, actually. I entirely blanked the transformation. I remembered in like 15 seconds, and he just goes in there. And there's that. And you can see him through the translucent windshield. Or the translucent, not a windshield, I'm sorry, cassette door. His tape mode is okay. It doesn't really look convincing like a tape at all. His head is right there, so just don't turn it around. This looks like incredibly silly, but you know, it is what it is. It's a legend scale tape. It actually does look like a pretty convincing rectangle, so there is that. Steeljaw, on the other hand, is a different story. I think his transformation is a lot less intuitive. You want to start with this, flip that around, put this back here. Like, this is not a transformation that I think you would be able to get on your own first try. I got it by accident transforming it, you know, but it's not really one that I find to be particularly intuitive, unlike Eject, where you just mess with him. You basically visually locate the tabs, and then it's like, oh, well, this is a breeze. Steeljaw is really not. His tolerances are also like a bit significantly, I want to say, tighter. And it's not like I'm worried about breaking it. It's just like manipulating things becomes a little bit harder at this scale when the figure is this small. This part is really annoying. These fins don't really tab in, but like they have this really specific orientation they need to be in. And you get like this Steeljaw rectangle. I will say that Steeljaw is a significantly better tape than Eject in tape mode, since like it's a lot less obvious that this is like a robot lion. It's obvious it turns into something, but you know, it's not really immediately obvious what. Eject, it's very obvious what he turns into. He's just a bunch of folded up limbs. This guy is as well, but he does a much better job of hiding it. He also fits inside. He also fits inside. Okay, he's not fitting inside. There we go. He also fits inside. There's that. No accessories for Steeljaw. The guns are mounted. Eject has an accessory I forgot to show off. He has this gun, and where are his hands? It can plug into his hands. Let me see if this works. Yeah, he can plug into his hands. He can hold it and shoot at people. But it does also go in this mode. No weapon storage for it, obviously, but you can toss it in Blaster's chest cavity if it's empty, I guess. Blaster has a few accessories. He has 2 pairs of pointing hands that you can just replace his fist hands. Only the fist hands fit during the transformation. And then he has 2 pairs of open hinged hands, which give him wrist articulation, which is very nice and useful. I assume he comes with these so he can press the buttons on his cassette door and ploop out his cassettes, which is usually the way it goes. He also has a gun, which you can hold. It's not tolerant super well. It feels kind of loose in his grip. Weirdly so. Usually it's not an issue with Newage. It's like the one tolerance issue this toy has, I think. So it's a bit weird. But that's it for accessories. For size comparisons, let's put him back here. And let's bring out 2 Newage figures, or 3 actually. Depth Charge, The Prodigal Son Returns. Man-O-War, and our guest star in one of the gallery photos, replacing Straxus, Shattered Glass Sludge. And then let's get in some Hasbro figures. Let's say Legion class Flak, who goes right there. Core class Bombburst, who does not super fit in the frame, but you know, let's get him in there. That's Corp class Bomb Burst. And then finally, Deluxe class G2 Trooper. So you can see that like he's in that in between core and deluxe in terms of height. So pretty sizable for a blaster, I think. I'm gonna get him transformed and then we'll look at his alternate mode. Here's our alternate mode size comparison. Man of War, the tapes himself, blaster, Legion class flak, core class. So yeah, similar size to the core class in alternate mode, but obviously maybe 3 to 4 times as dense. Very nice, robust brick. Just move these out of the way. Taking a closer look at this alternate mode, it really is just a box. I mean, it's what most of these cassette player guys are. You know, you can open the cassette door. That's the back of his head peeking out. Slide in. Eject. Okay, sometimes the tapes can be a little persnickety. I cannot believe I just used that word. They don't want to go in sometimes. There you go. You just got to get them in. They come out pretty fine. They don't get stuck or anything. I haven't gotten them stuck or whatever. They just don't cooperate sometimes going in, but you know, you just slide them in and they work. Those are the tapes. This is the mode. Overall, really clean. The handle is straight. Everything, you know, cleans up very nicely. It's a very robust, solid, nothing gets loose, etc. No weapon storage of any kind. I don't think you can. Are these screw holes? I think they're 4 millimeters. Yeah, it doesn't go there. No weapon storage of any kind, of course, like usual, but for the most part, I mean, it just looks good. Paint is good. Shaping is good. It's very, very clean. Nothing robot mode explicit except for the thighs on the bottom side. So, I mean, I don't know. It is pretty much perfect in this mode. It looks really good. And that's just going to bring up final thoughts for this guy, which I think is going to be short and sweet. It's really good in the sense that it does everything it's set to do very well, and it does it at a pretty good price point, you know? I mean, the paint is there, the sculpt is there, the deco is there, the articulation is there, the accessories are there. You know, I was happy that Newage actually included more than just one pair of alternate hands. I mean, they have the sculpt for these pointing hands. There's no reason for them not to toss it with every release. It does get alternate hands. You know, like it's just one tiny sprue of plastic. It's not going to kill anybody. And I think this should be the standard. It shouldn't be like, oh, well, this guy gets it because he has cassette, so he needs a pointing finger. I mean, it's just a pointing hand, dude. It's not that expensive. So I don't understand why it's such a commodity among their figures now when they have the sculpt. Magic Square also massively cut back on alternate hands for some reason, which I also don't understand, but whatever. But for the most part, the accessories are great. I don't know why Eject only gets one blaster. That's kind of weird, but I don't really care that much. I do wish that maybe he came with like a ram horn just to have all 3 copies of his tape molds. And also the clamshell has a spot for 3 tapes because the Shattered Glass one comes with 3 tapes. So it just feels weird that everybody except Shattered Glass has 2 tapes. It's just more like, I don't know, man, you could have tossed in 3. But these are all like nitpicks and complaints. For the overall package, you have what you need. The articulation is, again, minus butterflies, all you could ask for. Completely unhindered. The alternate mode is super solid, robust, you know, nails what it's supposed to do. The gimmick works. Eject is a fantastic tape. Steeljaw is good in tape mode, but kind of iffy in robot mode. And I will say the Marvel head sculpt is a bit peculiar. I don't think it looks bad per se, but it is peculiar in the sense that it's only going to work for specific poses, and it might be jarring to have a constantly, you know, screaming guy out there. Maybe should have done alternate faces for this guy. I think the Toon version also could have used like, you know, regular stoic face and like a smirking blaster face, because, you know, he smirks that one time in the movie. I feel like everyone wants that face. So I think they could have tooled alternate faces with this mold. They did that with Trailbreaker. I just hope that going forward we get more releases like this. I have like no serious complaints with this guy. I have to grasp at straws and be like, well, this could have been better and that could have been better, to like actually get like a legitimate flaw. I think the only flaw this guy has is like, God, I should have to think for a second. The waist swivel on the screw, having to loosen and tighten, having to tighten the screw. I guess you could say that's a flaw. And And I guess you could have been $5 cheaper, but compared to most Newage product and even Magic Square product for the price at $58, this is a great buy. I mean, especially when they charge $50 for like a single mini box. Okay, well, $47 for shreds, but you know, you get my drift. Drift, funny. But please make a drift from Springer whenever you do Springer, by the way, Newage. But I don't know, man. I just cannot bring myself to have any like issues with this. The tolerances are fantastic. The transformation is super fun and super. It's not like I would say like, oh, I can instantly figure this out by looking at it, but once you've like seen it done, it just clicks. Like it becomes very intuitive once you've done it, even if you don't actually put in the time to learn it. It's very easy to figure out. Like once you get that first panel and the legs open, it is smooth sailing. I mean, some people might not enjoy it, or they might find it a bit too complex for their tastes. Like, I don't know if Bobby would love this or whatever, but I personally think the transformation is fantastic. And the tolerances on my copy are really good. I don't have the Marvel Optimus to compare. Unfortunately, I had to downsize a lot of my collection recently. Like, this is a loaner, obviously, for my Blue Junk mech. A lot of my reviews in the future are going to be loaners as well, because I'm not going to be buying that much myself, unfortunately. But I would definitely like to pick up a copy of this guy at some point in the future, maybe if I wanted to go back and, like, if this is a mold I wanted a copy of. I personally would buy this if I had the opportunity to right now, because I think it's a good toy. I can fully recommend it to anyone interested in Legends, you know? I mean, I can fully recommend this one, like, full stop. There are no... Unless you really don't like G1 Blaster's design, then like, okay, probably pass on it. But like for the most part, if you were just interested in a good toy and a fun time, like definitely get this. I'm gonna put a link in the description down to the Shozy listing for this one. They have like 4 other colors on their website. Highly recommended for me. I don't want to say this is perfect, but I think it'll definitely go down as probably one of Newage's best releases from the, I think this is 2024, but it may have shipped this repaint this year, but definitely one of Newage's best releases. From 2024 for the mold overall. Maybe up there with Slag for their best one for sure. That's it from me, guys. Sorry this video went on a bit longer like usual. But, you know, thank you guys again for the support. I really appreciate it. Thanks again for comments. You know, I always like to engage with you guys. I'm going to toss a link again in the description to the Newage server as well, in case anybody wants to join on Discord. And yeah, that's it for me. Hope to see you guys next week. Peace out.